If you needed brain surgery, you wouldn't go to a general practitioner. And the challenge that I see when a lot of people are transitioning from living a domestic life to living the nomad capitalist life, they're going offshore, they're moving overseas, they're getting the tax benefits that come with that, is there's a process of reviewing what they've done up until now to make sure that everything was done properly. And the issue with that is that people who are living in their home country and immediately after moving out, they're still using their tax guy. They're still using Steve in Sheboygan. They're using the domestic tax preparer who may not understand the consequences of their transitioning to international tax. And so I'm going to talk about a few mistakes that have cost people money, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't want you to make these mistakes. I'm Andrew Henderson. People that I help will come to me and say, Andrew, don't worry, my taxes are fine. Steve has been handling it. And I'll say, just indulge me. Let me have one of our CPAs who is internationally focused go and look at the tax returns and make sure that everything was done properly. You see, the issue with having the same domestic tax preparer handle your returns when you are international is that those guys domestically, they focus on domestic. They're focused on the typical grind of, you're paying 40%, let's write off the home office and you'll pay 38%. Deduct your cell phone bill, maybe we can get those suits deducted. Doing stuff like that, it's very marginal. That's the mindset. And so if you're running a business, if you're running an online business, I imagine that at some point someone would have told you, oh no, that's dangerous. Oh, are you sure? Online business? Maybe your parents told you, ooh, like how are you going to make any money doing that? The same thing applies to domestic preparers. They're afraid of going offshore. And I was just talking to my personal tax lawyer not too long ago, and he would say, Andrew, it's one thing to be conservative. It's one thing to want to play by the rules, and that's exactly what I recommend that everyone do. But it's another thing to not know the answer and to feign conservatism just to make sure no one gets into trouble because you don't want to give them the wrong advice because you don't know. That's what happens on the domestic side. I'll tell you what happened with a guy who came to me not so long ago. He was an American. He had already been living overseas in the Philippines for a couple of years. And he said, hey, I've got a big tax problem. I'm making like $250,000 a year. And I'm paying all this tax. And I said, all right, well, we can figure out how to do that. It's relatively straightforward. But then we went back and looked at the tax returns. CPA looked at it. And his domestic tax preparer, the same guy who was helping him before he moved to the Philippines, neglected to take the foreign earned income exclusion. I think back then it was about $100,000 a year, a little less than it is now. And basically he was overpaying by something like $28,000 a year because he wasn't taking this simple exemption that he was entitled to. See, a lot of people are trying to be aggressive and they're trying to go backwards and try and rewrite history. This guy already qualified for this extra $28,000 a year, and we were able to go back and amend those tax returns that were filed by the domestic preparer and get him, I think it was something like 70 or 80 grand, just because he wasn't claiming something he was already entitled to. The more problematic thing that we've seen is when people come, let's say someone wants to renounce their citizenship. They want to make sure that all their taxes are in compliance for previous years so that they can say, hey, my taxes are in compliance, please let me go. And again, had someone come, yeah, everything's handled, I've just been running my company over here in this other high tax country. And when we actually went in to dig into the returns, lo and behold, there was a form that was missing for a couple of different years. And we figured out, that form, it's like $10,000 a year for not filing that form. And so $40,000 in penalties that the CPA had to go back and basically say, hey, this person didn't know any better, the preparer was filing, it's just a mistake, please let us off the hook. But that's the challenge with the domestic tax preparer, is that forms may go unfiled, exemptions may go unclaimed. And so your domestic preparer is probably going to tell you don't go offshore because it's a scary world, like the boats sailing off the edge of the earth into a pit of dragons. Their solution is just shave a little bit off the edges, play it safe. The reality is going offshore is playing it safe too, as long as you know what you're doing. As long as you're not using the same domestic strategy as your offshore strategy, there are totally legal ways to reduce your tax. And the important takeaway is that not only if you're going to be offshore, if you're going to be living overseas, do you need someone who specializes in that, but what you really need to understand is that if you're considering living overseas, if you're considering migrating everything offshore, is understanding that the domestic camp doesn't know that world and they're going to try and talk you out of it. So many people have come to me and said, yeah, my first step in trying to solve this was going to my accountant in Australia, in Canada, in the US, and they just said, no, can't be done. And I said, it can easily be done. It's just a matter of perspective.
I'm Andrew Henderson, and if you're looking for a way to legally reduce your taxes, build your freedom, and create wealth faster as a global citizen, then you've come to the right place. I want you to do 3 things right now. Number 1, click the buttons to subscribe to our channel. Make sure to get notifications so you never miss a new video. Number 2, get a copy of our #1 best-selling book, Nomad Capitalist, on Amazon and learn all the dozens of benefits of our lifestyle. And number 3, if you're already a 6- or 7-figure entrepreneur and you want to put these strategies in place, go to nomadcapitalist.com and find out how to get some help.